For most of my life, I was the person everyone described as nice. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't start conflicts. I said yes when I meant no. I kept my opinions to myself when the room might push back. And I told myself this was kindness. I thought I was kind. I was wrong. What I was, though it took me years to see it, was afraid. Afraid of my own anger. Afraid of what people would think if I disagreed. Afraid, most of all, that if I stopped being agreeable, people would stop approving of me. I had mistaken fear for virtue. I had mistaken compliance for character. And I had done it so thoroughly, for so long, that I no longer knew the difference. I couldn't explain what was happening to me. Why, despite being the person everyone liked, I went home most evenings with a rage I couldn't name. A heaviness that sat in my chest like something unpaid. A life that felt, in some way I couldn't articulate, like it belonged to someone else. Until I found Carl Jung, and he told me something that changed everything. The wolf is still inside you. You simply learned very early to keep it chained. We begin learning this lie before we have words for it. I remember it. The moment I expressed anger, real, honest, appropriate anger, and watched the room go cold. No one said the anger was wrong. They didn't need to. The withdrawal of warmth said everything. And I learned. Quietly, thoroughly, completely, that being accepted and being good were the same thing. That approval was virtue. That compliance was character. That the way to be a good person was to become the version of yourself that disturbs no one. It was here that Jung became the first person to give me a language for what I had experienced. He called the version we present to the world the persona, the mask worn in public, not out of deception, but out of social necessity. The persona, he said, is not the enemy. Every functional adult requires one. The danger is not having a persona. The danger is when the persona becomes so convincing, so rehearsed, so rewarded, so deeply grooved, that you stop being able to tell the difference between the mask and the face beneath it. I knew that man. I had been that man. 30 years of being described as the nicest person in the room. Never disagreeing at the table. never pushing back in the meeting, accommodating everyone, offending no one, going home every night to stare at the ceiling, with a rage I could not explain, and a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. Because it did. If everyone loves the version of you that never says no, never draws a line, never holds a position, never lets the room feel the weight of your actual convictions, who are they actually loving? Jung's most important insight was also his most unsettling. And when I first encountered it, I understood immediately why I had spent years unable to explain the heaviness in my chest. Nothing inside the human psyche disappears. When a child is taught that anger is unacceptable, the anger does not leave. It descends. When an adult learns that assertiveness makes people uncomfortable, the assertiveness does not die. It descends. When strength is treated as aggression, when power is treated as danger, when the capacity to confront is treated as a character flaw, these things do not leave. They descend. Jung called what lies beneath the shadow not a metaphor for evil, not a theological concept, the literal repository of everything the psyche has been forced to reject. Anger, aggression, strength, desire, power, the capacity for confrontation, the willingness to be disliked. Think of the shadow as a basement. Every time something is rejected, every emotion too dangerous to express, every impulse too inconvenient to acknowledge, it goes into the basement, and the door is locked. And we convince ourselves that because we cannot see it, it no longer exists. But the wolf in the basement does not go quiet. It paces. It grows. And the longer it is kept in the dark, the larger it becomes. Jung was precise about what happens when the shadow is denied long enough. It does not dissolve. It does not wait patiently. It finds its way out. Not through the front door, through whatever crack the psyche provides. Here is the paradox I wish someone had told me earlier. The truly dangerous person is not someone who knows they possess darkness. It is someone who believes they possess none. Because the person who knows their wolf can choose when and whether it speaks. But the person who has chained their wolf in the basement and told themselves it isn't there, that person will be controlled by it. From below. Without knowing. I saw this in myself before I could name it. the way I complied in the meeting, and spent the next 3 days making the person I agreed with. Quietly, imperceptibly, uncomfortable. That was the shadow. Moving through the back door, because I had never allowed it through the front. I have watched people I love do the same. Patient, agreeable, never angry. Until 11 years of quiet resentment collapsed into a single conversation that destroyed something. It took a decade to build. That was not the absence of a wolf. That was a wolf that had been starving for 11 years. Jung noted that the most moralistic people are frequently the most dangerous. The person who has constructed the most elaborate persona of goodness has, by the same architecture, built the most powerful shadow beneath it. Because the size of the shadow is always proportional to the brightness of the mask above it. The question is not whether you have a shadow. You do. Every person who has ever lived has one. The question is not whether the wolf is in the basement. It is. The only question that matters is this: who is controlling it? Is it you? Consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of what you carry? Or is it running itself through your passive aggression, your inexplicable resentments, your sudden rages, your quiet, grinding bitterness, while the persona maintains its performance of niceness above? When I first understood this, I came across something Jordan Peterson said that initially sounds provocative and eventually sounds obvious. A harmless man is not a good man. His point was not that harmlessness is bad. His point was that harmlessness is insufficient, and that mistaking harmlessness for virtue is one of the most dangerous errors a person can make about themselves. Jung's psychology makes this intelligible, because if a person has suppressed their capacity for confrontation so completely that they are incapable of drawing a line, incapable of saying this is wrong and I will not permit it, then their gentleness has never been tested, and untested gentleness is not virtue. It is simply the absence of pressure. Aristotle understood this 2,000 years before Jung named the shadow. Virtue, he said, is not the state of having no capacity for harm. It is the state of having that capacity and governing it deliberately. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is fear faced. Kindness is not the absence of the capacity to harm. It is that capacity withheld by choice. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the history of the world, commanding legions, deciding life and death, holding an empire in his hands, chose to write a private journal about restraint, about patience, about mercy, about calm. His restraint meant something, precisely because of what he could have done instead. The person who cannot harm anyone and chooses not to harm anyone is not expressing the same thing. One is impotence, the other is strength. Jung's answer was not to release the wolf. It was never to release the wolf. His answer was individuation, not self-improvement, not becoming a better version of the same suppressed self, but the slow, difficult, necessary process of becoming whole. For me, wholeness began with descending into the basement, not to release what was locked there, but to face it, to understand it, to recognize that the anger was not evil. It was information, that the aggression was not a flaw. It was energy without direction, that the wolf was not the enemy. The wolf was a part of me that had been starving in the dark and was desperate to serve me. The integrated man is not a tame man. He is a dangerous man who has chosen what to do with his danger. He can confront. He chooses when to. He can intimidate. He chooses not to. He can withdraw his cooperation. He decides it isn't worth it. He can be unkind. He finds it beneath him. That is virtue. Not the virtue of someone who has never been tested. The virtue of someone who knows exactly what they are capable of and governs it. The wolf walks beside me now. Not locked in the basement. Not unleashed and running. Beside me. Calm. Present. Ready. Directed by someone who finally knows it is there. Perhaps you're recognizing something in this. Perhaps you've spent years being called nice and felt beneath that word something that didn't quite fit. A heaviness, a rage without a name, a life that functions but doesn't fully feel like yours. Were you truly nice? Or simply afraid of what might happen? If people saw your strength, afraid of the anger, afraid of the confrontation, afraid that if the mask slipped, even slightly, what was underneath would be judged, rejected, taken away. That fear was not your weakness. It was the wound the fear was protecting. And beneath the wound was something that was never given the chance to grow. A self with edges, with weight, with the capacity to hold a line and mean it. True kindness is not the absence of power. It is power under conscious control. The world does not need more harmless people. It needs people who have faced their darkness, who have gone into the basement, opened the door, looked the wolf in the eye, and chosen to master it. Not to destroy it, not to release it, to walk beside it. Your strength was never the enemy. Your fear of it was. Michelangelo once said, "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free." Perhaps that is what Jung was trying to tell us all along. That the strongest version of yourself was never something you had to build, only something you had to uncover. The wolf was never the obstacle. The chain was. And perhaps the same is true for you.